out. This is super crazy. Okay, so now I think I go start the streaming now. So let's see. Hello everybody out there. We are back again finally with a new video stream. Unfortunately, we had to switch off the videos of the participants for now. We are switching them on then again because of some bandwidth limitations. I'm really sorry for that, but yeah, we fixed this just seconds ago, so now we are ready to go. And tonight, this evening, we have a very special guest here in our show, which is Salvatore Iovene from Italy. He is the founder and the maintainer of the Astrobin.com website, of this portal. If you are in some point in astrophotography, I'm pretty sure you are aware of that website, and we are super happy that he attends our session tonight, and he will give us some really interesting information about upcoming new features, the platform itself, maybe some of the history. I'm pretty sure that the viewers are also interested in that. And yeah, I think without further ado, just some quick mentions. We are also able to do giveaway today, and if you want to attend this giveaway, please fill the YouTube chat with this hashtag giveaway. Then we will do a raffle and select two winners for two €50 vouchers for Teleskop-Service, for the Teleskop-Service webshop. And if the time allows it, we will also show you some of our images, the ambassadors that are attending tonight, which is also Veleba and Ioan Popa and Peter Dunsby. Maybe we have something to show, because it's now nearly 2 months since our last sessions. I'm pretty sure that there's something in the pipeline to show. So, but now, as mentioned, as promised, without further ado, I will give the stage to Salvatore. As said, Salvatore, we are super pleased to have you here and really looking forward to have a nice chat with you.
Hi, Torsten. Hi, can you see me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes,
cool.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here myself. Today, because I was invited here, and this is the Teleskop-Service YouTube channel, and you guys, I hear, are into telescopes and cameras and astro gear. And I believe that everybody, or almost everybody in astrophotography is, at heart, at some level, a bit of a equipment nerd. At least that's where I classify myself as well. Not just in astronomy, but, everything that is, from computers to other things. I really like the equipment part of things, and I guess that many of you might be the same. So because one of the most interesting talking points, I believe, would be talking about the equipment database on Astrobin and what's happening with it, the changes that we're going to do. I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about something like that. So if you have been on Astrobin for a while, or even if you haven't, basically, if you have used Astrobin to upload your images and to tag your equipment item to your images, you know that there is a vast equipment item database behind Astrobin. And this database is maintained and curated by, I wouldn't say curated at this point, but it's created by the community. When I started the Astrobin project, which is now 11 years ago, I have to say I had a lot to learn about user interaction, about how to deal with user input and all these things. I come as a software engineer. I come from a background that is a bit more lower level. I was working at middleware in phones back in Nokia 10 years ago. So, excuse me, I had a lot to learn about UI and UX. And because the equipment database or the equipment input forms that are on Astrobin were basically one of the first things that I developed on Astrobin because it was part of the image upload process. I would say that, in retrospect, and of course, hindsight is 2020, I made the forms a bit too loose in the kind of input that they would accept. They should have been stricter to avoid what happened, which is duplication of equipment items. So right now, the Astrobin database of equipment consists of 140,000 items between telescopes, cameras, mounts, filters, accessories, software, and so on. Obviously, I don't believe that there is so many unique products in astronomy or astrophotography. So the problem is that there is a lot of duplicates. The duplicates, they come in different forms. I mean, some of them are just typos or just different ways of typing the same thing. For instance, with dashes or with underscores, or with dots, with spaces, with commas, different capitalization, and so on. Now, Astrobin does offer you autocomplete when you start typing your equipment items. But as I said, it's not very strict. So if you ignore the autocomplete, it will just accept anything you type into it and just create a new item. And this thing leads to fragmentation of the equipment database. That means that if you search for something, and let's say we're talking about a Canon camera, okay, so the Canon 500, for instance, if that even exists, I'm just making it up. So let's say that you typed it with a typo and you have Canon with 2 N's, and somebody else said Canon 500 correctly, and the other one said Canon 500 modified because they modified it for astrophotography. That's now going to be 3 equipment items in the database. And depending on what people select in autocomplete when they add an equipment item to their images, that's going to lead to the fact that some images are going to be tagged or labeled or whatever you want with one item, some of them with a different item, and some of them with a different item still. But to all intents and purposes, if you're searching on Astrobin for this camera, for instance, you don't care about the spelling or things like that. You just want to find all images taken with that camera. So this fragmentation means that you will not get all the search results that you want. Astrobin tries to be smart about it because, in this case, it will work anyway because the search is kind of fuzzy just to account for that. But there's a limit. I cannot make it too smart because what happens is that it goes on to err on the other side. So you might get search results that are not relevant to your search because the search engine was being a bit too liberal, too fuzzy in getting the search results. So this has been a situation that has been going on for a long time, right? And more years that passed, the more the database became more fragmented and with these duplicates. Before last year, I just didn't have time to seriously look into fixing this issue. Because I didn't work full-time on Astrobin, I had a day job and it was a side job. Since 2021, I'm able to work full-time on Astrobin thanks to this amazing community. And this means that I can finally, I could finally start tackling this issue that I think it's really very, very important for the community because people use Astrobin a lot to search for images. Obviously, lots of people use it to share their work, but the search capabilities of the platform is what drives a lot of people to using it, and that's because people want to know they may be interested in something new to acquire, to purchase, like a new telescope or a new camera, and they want to know how things will play together with other things, pieces of equipment that they have. They want to know what images might look like, and so on. And especially they want to connect with other people who have the same equipment, because they want to share information, they want to ask questions, and so on. One of the most frequent kind of exchanges that I see on Astrobin forums and on image comments is something like, hey, I have the same telescope and I have this problem. Did you figure it out? Did you have the same problem? Or I would like to buy the same telescope that you have. Can you give me some tips, and so on? So connecting these kind of people who have the same equipment would be very beneficial to everybody. The way to do this is that now, since July, I'm working basically full speed on this new equipment database, and I'm writing code and UIs and pages to enable pretty much a revolution on Astrobin from this point of view, and enable new tools that will allow the community to make searches more accurately, with more filters, and to connect with each other. So what's going to happen? Basically, it's very easy. I mean, the thing that we want to solve is the fragmentation caused by the duplication of items. So we're going to start kind of from scratch with a initial database that is curated, and it's being created right now by several volunteers who are spending lots of hours, and I'm incredibly grateful for these people. They're really doing a lot of work to create this initial database. The initial database is going to include the most commonly used equipment items from the most common brands, right? So the idea is that the Pareto principle, so the 80-20 rule, is going to apply to this scenario. So we want to have a database that consists of 20% of the items that are used by 80% of the people. Now, what I have built, and basically this is pretty much almost finished, right? I just need to fix, maybe iron out a few kinks and stuff like that. But what I have is a set of tools that will enable you to insert your equipment items, tag them to your images in a way that is going to be much more safe from human errors. So the UI really guides you through the process. You can't really go astray. You have to make a very conscious decision to create a new equipment item, because a similar one doesn't exist right now. As it is right now, you can just ignore the autocomplete. It's very easy, and then you're going to create a duplicate. But with the new one, it's going to be very difficult to create a new duplicate. So Astrobin gives you many suggestions. Are you sure you want to create this one? We found these similar items, and so on. Additionally, every item that you create is going to compose this live database that works kind of like Wikipedia, and every equipment item has its own page when you can propose an edit to that item. Every edit that is proposed needs a peer review or a moderator's review, so that we don't mess it up, right? I have huge faith in the fact that the community will do a really good job, en masse, with this crowdsourcing approach of things, to maintain this equipment database. Because, to be honest, if I had to have this done in a way not to involve the community to maintain it, it would be like extremely difficult or impossible to go through like every single possible item. There's just tens of thousands of them, and who's going to do that? It's a huge amount of work. But when we work together, because everybody has an interest in this thing, right? Everybody on Astrobin has an interest in the fact that the equipment database is correct. So if you buy a new camera, for instance, and you start using it, and then you notice that on its page on Astrobin, there's a typo, or there's a mistake in the pixel size. It's off by 1.1/10 of a micron or something. you can fix it, and it's very easy. You propose an edit, and somebody else is going to review it. There's a full system with notifications in place. It's very nice. It's going to be very engaging and so on. This way, I have huge faith that we're going to end up with a very comprehensive, very polished database of equipment that anybody will benefit from. How are we going to benefit from
Salvatore,
this thing?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I'm actually nice that you bring up UX. That's my full-time role, and I work for a company at which we deal with petabytes of information every day. So this thing that you're saying has been solved in multiple ways. And I had a question for you in the new Astrobin. So as a UX designer, what I would advise you to do to avoid duplicates, to avoid all of these things, is first start with enforced validation, but most importantly, you have to do what's called progressive disclosure. So if I look for a device, I first start with one data item, then I match it, then I go to the next. If I go insert Canon 500D in one go, that's where you open up the door for a lot of errors to happen. And specifically with more complex names, like for example, ZWO, MM Pro, MM Pro 2, whatever, that's even worse. So one thing is to do progressive disclosure and to match it to a data set and then attach a new metadata point like the actual model. But from a user's point of view, I think you've hinted on the idea that you've learned a lot. How can users access the new version of Astrobin? And more importantly, what kind of user research do you want to basically run before the platform is live to make sure that it solves all the problems? Have you thought about that? That's just a suggestion from a UX mind.
Yeah, I have thought about that. Actually, during the past 3 years or 4 years, actually, before I quit my day job to work full-time on Astrobin, I was working on a UX-driven company. They were working on matching test users to usability studies. So we had a huge platform for that and so on. So hi, well, they're probably not watching, but anyway. So I have thought about that. So the access to the new features of the platform will be rolled out slowly because I need to gather feedback and user input and so on. As I said, there's obviously going to be a few bugs or a few usability issues that will come up. I believe that, and this comes from a book on UX, that with just 5 test users on a qualitative research attempt, you can get 80% of the usability issues. So what I'm going to do is that, first of all, I already had some test runs from volunteers who used the platform to try it out, and I got a lot of feedback, and I fixed a lot of things to improve the UX, the usability of the pages. Then what I'm going to do is that when I'm ready, when we have an initial database that has enough items so that we can be confident that not everybody will have to be creating items all the time, because we want to avoid that. We want people to use the existing items as much as possible. When we have that, I will begin rolling out this thing. So there will be announcements. There will be people who will get, an email that this is available to them, and then they will be able to begin using it. And I will obviously ask. I will start slowly and collect feedback. Ask proactively for feedback, and I also can use tools like Hotjar, which will be able to provide some recordings of how people are using the new pages and so on. So I can learn from this kind of patterns if there's something that needs improvement. So gentle rollout. That's where it is.
Thank you. And one last clarification question to all of us who have a lot of images in Astrobin. The database is going to be ported towards the new platform, and your volunteers are matching existing gear so that there's no duplicates, and that's what you're trying to figure out as you go live, right?
Yes. So basically, there's 2 stages about what you say. So the volunteers, they're trying to match items from the old, I call it like the legacy database or the messy database, if you want, to the new items that are going to be created and that they're going to comprise the polished and nice database. Now, the the policy that I have told everybody to apply in this case is that we should have an absolute zero tolerance for errors, no errors at all. How we do this is that we only migrate items that we are 100% certain, beyond any possible doubt, that there's a match between the item in the old database and the item in the new database. If there's any doubt whatsoever that we cannot disambiguate between, several items, then we just leave it as is. And you, as the owner of that item, you're going to be able to do the association, the migration. So you will get notifications on Astrobin, or you will have a small pop-up or something that will invite you to please migrate your gear, because those items we weren't able to migrate unambiguously. This is, for instance, if you have a camera that is offered both in color and monochrome modes, and you just didn't specify in the name of the camera, so we don't know which, towards which items we should migrate it, and then we just leave it to you to do.
I have a follow-up question to that, and it's mostly to do with other user features. So I think gear is important, duplication, and I've done exactly what you said. I've asked people about this scope, that scope, can it support that camera? Does it correct for everything? But the other thing is actually making the platform more user decisive and more user driven. It'd be cool if we can see a feature where upvoting for things like image of the day or top pick would be something that could be done on an image. So right now you have, I think, save, you have like, you have and so forth. But is this in the future for Astrobin where people could actually crowd promote that image to image of the day? Because a lot of the times it's hard to be found, as if you don't have a large presence, if you're new to Astrobin, it's very hard for your image to be discovered, because it has to go through the viral loop that most image networks have to. Is there a feature that you're thinking about in the future where, let's say somebody's new to Astrobin and we can say, what an extraordinary image, maybe it's a topic. Is that going to be something that you put in the hands of the user in the future?
Okay, so now we're changing topics a little bit, but it's absolutely fine. So first of all, the image of the day in topics process is not crowdsourced completely, because of actual reasons. The most important thing is that once you crowdsource something like that to everybody, to the whole community, it becomes a contest for likes, and then there's no difference between that and likes. And likes, they don't work for something like this, because likes are a measure of popularity and they're not a measure of the quality of the image. The Astrobin image of the day and topics is, of course, a way to promote beautifully done images, and promote astrophotography also outside of Astrobin, because they're shared on Instagram and Facebook, and they get usually tens of thousands of views. But they are in with a focus on technical excellence, what I like to say. The reason is that the main audience for the topics and the image of the day is still mostly astrophotographers. And technical excellence is something, this is a technical hobby, right? It's art, partially, it's science, of course, but it's also technique. So being able to use a lot of softwares and a lot of pieces of hardware in a very like engineering kind of mindset way. So because of that, I don't believe that we are ever going to completely crowdsource the image of the day because of the association with the likes. But the process is already quite democratic. I mean, there's a staff that's comprised this year, 2021. We're going to make it a bit smaller next year, because it's going to be easier to handle many things. But the members of the staff, they are elected by everybody who registered as a voter. So I got hundreds of votes, and I mean, the people got hundreds of votes and so on. So in the end, we come up with a staff and with the judges, and then we select the lower levels of the funnel. So the selection, it works as a funnel. There's like 3 layers of staff. and they start advancing people through advancing images through the layers until they get to image of the day. So that's that answer.
Thank you. And again, I wasn't saying everybody can do it. I'm just saying that there's a way to push it in the funnel, and then extra validation will have to be done. Because again, yes, you don't want to be, a crawler and everybody builds one and you get thousands of views and you just get image of the day. No, I think if you can promote something in that funnel, that's all I was saying. Sounds like you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you upload images to Astrobin, you can push it into the funnel, right? It doesn't mean that it's going to because maybe you have lots of likes or because of the algorithm or anything like that, which actually there's no such thing on Astrobin. Because we try to get the popularity out of the system as much as possible. In fact, through the first two layers of the funnels, the funnel images are anonymized. So there's just no way that popularity is going to influence this thing at all, which is what we want, because we want to promote technical excellence and not how many followers you have and how many likes you have, right? We want to promote beautiful images and not images from people who have lots of followers. But the second part of your question was about how to promote people who are new on Astrobin. So first of all, Astrobin is not Instagram. It's not even close to that kind of size. Astrobin gets about 400 to 500 new images every day by about the same amount of people, because usually people don't post more than one image, or maybe two images sometimes per day. People who are new to on Astrobin will, of course, have a bit of a harder time getting noticed if their images are not super great, because obviously we are all at a different point in the journey, right? So usually when you start the journey of astrophotography, you have a lot to learn in terms of processing, right? That's usually the biggest hurdle. The second thing is that when you start, usually don't just go all out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars in equipment. So you start with more modest equipment. And that, paired with the fact that your skills are going to be more modest because you're just starting out, that's going to lead to more modest images that are not going to be so eye-catching, and they're not going to get lots of likes, right? So for that reason, it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to get noticed. The front page on Astrobin works so that every time something, it's very easy. This would be like the algorithm, but it's very easy. Every time something happens on an image, which means somebody likes it or somebody bookmarks it, somebody comments, or you upload a new revision, and so on, then this story for your image gets pushed to the top. So if an image is great, it starts getting likes, and the more likes it gets, the more time it spends on the front page, and then the more likes it gets, right? Until at some point, everybody who will have liked it will have liked it, right? So at some point, interest just wanes off, and the image will start sinking down the feed, and everybody who might have seen it that way will have seen it that way. So for the future, I do want to encourage people who are newcomers to the hobby to share their work on Astrobin. Obviously, because Astrobin doesn't try to be elitist or gatekeeping or anything like that, right? I want to be as inclusive. I want it to be as inclusive as possible. But I realize that I feel that sometimes from reading around, some people might be a bit intimidated, because there's just so much quality work. I mean, and the quality work is the one that tends to be noticed the most because of the way the homepage feed works and because of the topics and image of the day. So people might go like, oh, this is for pros, and why should I share my stuff here? It's pointless and so on. So I do want to encourage that, and I plan to do this with a combination of groups and a better integration of some specific sections within the site to promote newcomers, and maybe having an experience badge that tells like how many years of experience you have, and then that helps you maybe connect with people who are the same level or experience as you, or slightly better. But obviously these things, you know, there's just so much fish that I can fry at one time, and it just takes time to do something like this.
Thank you. And one last question, and I'm sorry, because again,
no, it's okay. That's good. That's perfect.
This is my day job. So one thing you were hinting about is gamification. The idea of a badge comes from the idea of gamification, and comes from the idea of people striving to get those badges, striving to have more user experience. One good example I would like to kind of give you, and this is just food for thought, is a company called Envato. I'm sure you know who they are. Envato has a lot of products that and runs a huge community of coding tools and themes and other things. Their tooling and their badging is really good because it does exactly what you said. My last question is actually, so from what you're saying is you're splitting the home feed into multiple home feeds that they're going to be niche targeted for professionals or for people of a certain badging system. And then people who are new, they'll have their own section. Is that correct?
So this is highly hypothetical, because I haven't really spent time on figuring out an actual solution for this, and this is not even planned at all, not even for next year. I mean, it's not in, I have already plans for next year, but this is not high in that priority list, so I haven't given it a lot of thought. So I cannot tell you the way that I plan it will be, because I haven't planned it yet. I am a little bit hesitant about talking about gamification, because I think that the Astrobin crowd is mostly not too keen on gamification just per se. I mean, lots of people, it's not that gamification is bad or it's like not serious or anything like that, but I don't want to create artificial ways to make the community more engaged. For me, the engagement of the community has to come from the astrophotography, from the content, such as useful information on the forums and on the comments. For me, Astrobin is all about exchanging information and having a flow of information that goes from the most experienced astrophotographers to the least experienced ones. And if gamification is a way to enable these things, then I will consider it that way, but I don't want to overdo it and make it artificial just for the sake of getting new members or new users or, you know, things like that. I like the way that Astrobin grows organically, and that the community drives it. Most of my roadmap is like comes from listening to people's requests and doing surveys every now and then and talking to people a lot. So I don't want to take time from building features that are actually useful into building features like gamification, which are not useful per se, right? They just might contribute in the long run to make Astrobin more fun, but I don't know if that's really the way to go for a platform like Astrobin.
Okay, I just want to quickly interrupt before Ioan has a new question. No, thank you very much, Ioan and Salvatore, for your very good answers here. Fantastic. That's the problem when you invite two, or in our case, three software developers in one session, then it ends like this. But yeah, I think that's also interesting for the users, because there was one, also a question in the chat from Tudor. He's also a bit afraid that it may become an elitist platform. But I think you explained it pretty good, how it can work also for amateurs to get started. That brings me also back to the point we stopped a bit with the equipment database. Maybe, I'm pretty sure you have something to add to this.
Yeah, I can finish. I can talk a bit more about the new equipment stuff, just briefly. I was talking about the features that it will enable. Yeah.
Just a moment. I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
I just want to mention for the viewers our giveaway. If you want to participate, please drop a hashtag giveaway in the comment box so that we can select you for the raffle. Okay, so now I'm silent.
Okay, cool. So, well, we went on a tangent about the image of the day and the community stuff. So thank Ioan for the cool questions, really food for thought. But I was talking about the equipment database, and I wanted to mention a few more things that it will enable that I think are very exciting. So first of all, I was talking about connecting the community, creating connections based on the equipment database, equipment items that people share. So when this is released at some point, and I'm talking about the next couple of months, realistically, that I begin rolling it out. It will work so that every equipment item, which means every telescope, every camera, every software item, every mount, and so on, will have its own page on Astrobin. This page will show images taken with this equipment item. And now we're not talking about fuzzy search or anything like that. We're talking about exact matches. So because we have software engineers here, we're talking about direct database related foreign keys and so on. So there's not going to be anything fuzzy about that. So you see the images taken with that item. You see a list of people who have taken images with that item. Of course, then, at some point, as required, as I get requests and people need things like that, I might introduce also like privacy filters for things like that if you don't want to be in one of those pages and so on. But all these things I do as a, on a per need basis. So there's going to be these lists. There's going to be a dedicated forum just for that equipment item. So automatically, every item on Astrobin, every equipment item, they get their own forum page. And that's useful because right now in the Astrobin groups and also in the equipment forum, well, not in the equipment forums, but in the groups, because people can create their own custom groups. We have some groups based on equipment. So like whatever, ZW, yada, yada, owners club or something, right? This is not going to be necessary anymore because equipment item, they get their own forum. And hear this, when you post a question to the forum or of a certain telescope or camera, everybody who owns it or has taken pictures with it will get a notification. Obviously, you can turn it off for the future if you don't like that notification. But that means that whenever you have a technical question about an equipment item, you know that your best bet to get a technical answer to that question from an owner of that item is to ask on that page, on the page of that item on Astrobin itself. Because of this, creating this community around equipment item, people are going to be connected that way, and it's just going to be easier to exchange technical information for items that way. One other exciting thing that this is going to be enabling is better search filters. So I'm going to add search filters for all possible technical specification. So for instance, camera pixel size, telescope focal length, mount maximum payload, or periodic error correction. You can search. You will be able to search for, let's say, images taken with a camera with pixel size between 4 and 5 microns and with a mount with a slew speed between 2 and 20 degrees per second, whatever. Not that it matters, right? You don't care about the slew speed of a mount if you're searching for images, but just to say what kind of things that this is going to be enabling. So every technical specification feature that we can think of, it's going to be a feature, a filter, in the search engine. So these few things, I think that they're going to make Astrobin a much better place for people who are interested in searching for equipment items and for images acquired with specific equipment items or with equipment items that match certain search criteria. And I think this is most of it. One thing extra that you will be able to do, but it's not implemented yet, it's to compare equipment items. So you have you want to compare two cameras and you get the two columns side by side with the technical specifications of the items. And all these things, of course, they are community maintained, right? Which is the great thing, because if there's a mistake, somebody will fix it, especially with the most popular items, which are going to be the ones with most eyes on them and the ones that people are more interested in, because there's a reason why they're popular. And I think this is all about the equipment database. Trying to roll it
One
out.
more question there,
Yeah.
Salvatore. Again, I apologize if I'm taking the stage.
No,
so
that's
you're
cool.
saying once the transfer is complete, once in the future in the new Astrobin 2.0 or the platform, can a user spot a problem with payload, with any kind of metadata level, and either suggest a correction like Wikipedia, or at least send it back to one of the moderators for it to be fixed? How will that work?
So the way it works right now, as it is implemented, unreleased right now, is that everybody is a peer and everybody can review. So it's peer reviewed and not moderation review. Everybody who has worked on that item before, which means has proposed a modification before, has reviewed a modification, has commented a modification, because you can also do discussion threads on these modifications. They will get a notification when there is a new proposal for modification, so that they kind of get priority, right? It becomes a little club of people who are interested in maintaining this item. I will see how it works. I don't think that it becomes messy, but if it does, then I will restrict it a bit more to a set of moderators. But I don't want to burden specific people with with a job of moderating things, because then you are dependent on the free time of that specific person who is the moderator for that item. But I think, if we just let the whole community maintain it with this priority based on notifications, then it should be fine. There's going to be like abuse systems in place. Obviously, if you abuse it, you're gonna get, there's going to be spam control and so on. You need to maybe be a user of Astrobin for a certain number of weeks or months until you can propose modifications and things like that to prevent abuse. And you can't make too many requests. Otherwise it's probably going to be detected as a abuse attempt, maybe a spam or something. So it should work.
Thank you, Salvatore, and thank you for being the kind of founder that's not interested in money and interested in the community. From talking to you, feels like you're really not looking to create the next Instagram or looking to be buddies with Mark Zuckerberg. It looks like you really care about us and our opinions. And again, I think you're one of us. You're interested in good, you're interested in everything, but you just want to make people connect and appreciate their work. So thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. If we can get real for a second, that's the way I am. So I am a person who has a big interest in astronomy and astrophotography, even though I haven't been active as an astrophotographer now for many years. But I think that what defines me the most as a person is that I'm a software engineer, and I have been since I was a little boy, and I got my first computer and I started learning how to program it. And that was many, many years ago. It was 31 years ago. And I was a child when I started. And I never stopped. I have always been fascinated and very interested in this. And the reason why I do this, it basically, it's the marriage of my two big interests, which is software engineering and astronomy, right? And yes, as you said, I'm not into this for the money per se, and I'm not trying to milk this cow in a way. And you know that, because I don't push growth on Astrobin so much. I try to make the platform grow, but not at the expense of the existing users, of the users who have been on it for a long time, or of the astrophotographers who are more experienced in this hobby, because what I observe in other sectors, like completely unrelated to astronomy and so on, other platforms and so on, is that they try to make the platform as newbie friendly as possible, because the goal is to grow and to get investors, and the investors, they just want to see the hockey stick growth curve, right? But when they do this, it is sometimes at the expense of the of the long time users who are more committed and so on. And I try to strike a balance in that. For instance, in where I split my time to try to improve the community, because I also realize that more money for Astrobin means more features down the line, because I maybe in the future I would hope to hire somebody, right, if the platform continues to grow. Now I had quite a big nice amount of growth during 2020 and 2021, which allowed me to go full time, and that has changed the game completely. Because before I was working full time on Astrobin, the time, like the amount of labor I was able to give Astrobin was limited by the amount of energy that I had after a full-time day job, and I have small kids and so on. So that was my limitation. Now that I don't have that limitation anymore, the amount of labor that I can give, it's just on the amount of time that there is in a day, right? Because it's for me, it's just, I have to be honest, it's a lot of fun. I really love doing this, and it's a great community to I have a huge privilege, to be working with this community, and to be talking eye to eye with very clever people very often, and it's very inspiring. So I'm in a great position. I'm very, very happy about it. And yeah, I think that's a little bit of a get real background story.
I was, but I was just waiting for the silence to go. So, Salvatore, two things. If you ever need a UX designer, you can find me on Astrobin. You don't have to pay me. I've worked for a lot of companies that I'm passionate about, and if you ever need help, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help. The last question I had, Salvatore, and this is more of a platform question. Platform to me means multiple devices. Are you planning to make Astrobin into a mobile app or support any kind of mobile experience, anything like that, for people to discover astronomy, to discover this? Because I always get asked from people, how can I see these images? I don't want to send them to Instagram. I really don't, because it pains me to send them to such a flawed platform. So I would love to share Astrobin as an app with people. I would love people to discover these beautiful images on their mobile phone, and maybe help the hobby and maybe get new people into astronomy.
So obviously, of course, you can send them a link to your page or to your images, but I understand it's not the same thing, because they're probably not going to sign up if they're just your friends, who have no interest in astronomy, except they like to see your pictures because they're cool. But yeah, I mean, an app, this comes again to, I can only fry so many fish, and so far, the way that I've done it is that I try to make the mobile version of the website. So that means that the page, that as you see it in a small device like a phone or a tablet, I make it as usable as possible. Obviously, yes, it's not the same thing as a real app, which would feel faster, nicer to use. It would have a more dedicated UI that is more appropriate for an app. But as long as it's at the moment just me working full time on Astrobin, I just cannot do that, because there's just so many other things that will have more impact. And I think it comes back to that, to what I said before. An app might attract more people to the platform who are not astrophotographers. It would be cool for more people to view images, but they will not contribute to the platform directly in terms of content. And I have to decide, okay, where do I want to put my focus? And because there's so many important things to do in the platform that will benefit the astrophotographers, that's where, you know, I tend to put my time the most.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if there's more questions from the chat, from the YouTube chat, or Torsten or Peter or Jan, or anybody has more questions, open to answering pretty much anything.
I've been using Astrobin ever since I started astrophotography, because even, for example, when you want to Google some nebula, you always get Astrobin as a first result. So it was quite easy to get into it. But you said that Astrobin has been online for 11 years, I believe. What was the initial push for you to come up with something like that?
Okay, so backstory time. So it's been online for 10 years, but I've worked on it for 11 years because it took me 1 year of work to finally release it to the public. So the push for it was that I started myself astrophotography 11 years ago. And so I was interested in astronomy since a little kid, but I didn't have the money as a little kid to do astrophotography. So when I was an adult and I started working, then I had some income, some expansible income to do that for hobbies. And when I started, I remember taking images, and I was like, okay, cool, but is this good? I don't know, because I didn't have any kind of direct comparison, because you can't compare with other images that are taken with different equipment, with different sky conditions, with different integration time. And I'm talking about deep sky because that's what I was doing. So I wanted to know if what I was getting in terms of my equipment and my sky condition and my integration time, if it was good or it was just average, or if it was just bad. And if I went on Google and I wrote M81, M82, the galaxies, and then I wrote Skywatcher ED80, which was my telescope, and then I wrote Canon 450D. If I wrote that into Google, I wasn't guaranteed to get images of those galaxies with those equipment items, because more often than not, I would find images of maybe those galaxies, but taken with completely different equipment. But somebody on the same forum post had those things that I have in their forum signature, because people tend to list their equipment in the forum signature. And that would just mess up the search result, because then, you know, it wouldn't be the images that I wanted. So I was like, okay, there has to be a way to do this. And I searched, but there wasn't such a platform. And me being the way that I am, I just said I have to create it. So I started working on it, and the core value between the initial version of Astrobin was just data. And the way to associate images with all the metadata that they have, because an photograph is not just it's different from a daytime, your vacation photographs, so on and so on, because of the metadata. There's just so much more metadata, the filters that you used, integration time for every filter, or the calibration frames that you have used, what equipment items you have used, the sky quality, the phase of the moon, you know, when you took that image, and all these things, they have an impact on your image. So I wanted to build a way for people to figure out what to expect from their equipment. And then it became a gallery. And then over the years, more and more people, they were asking more social features like comments and forums and likes and bookmarks and so on, and private messages. So it became more of a social platform over the years. But initially, when I created it, it didn't even have galleries. It just had the images and just the page of the image, and the search engine. That was the first thing as well. So that's the backstory.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Salvatore, just a question about community science. Is there any plans to develop a platform to promote this kind of activity? You know, it's a huge repository of fantastic images, but within those images, there's a lot of science. And are there plans, you know, along those lines to really push that area, and also push community outreach, that kind of thing as well?
So yeah, regarding the science, I think that most of the science that could be gotten from amateur astrophotography would be from the raw frames rather than the finished image, because when you stack things, you're going to lose a lot of information. I'm not just talking about, I mean, if we ignore the photometric aspect of things, right? Because your image, once you're post-processed it, is not linear anymore. So all the relative brilliances, is that a word? Luminances, that, you know, they're not in scale anymore. So that's something that gets lost. Something else that gets lost is, for instance, moving objects like asteroids. Sometimes when you stack, they get lost. I have had plans for this in the past, and I started a platform called Astrobin Raw Data some years ago. Eventually, I discontinued it because of lack of interest, or, well, not lack of interest, but it was mainly my failure not being able to market it and have it at a competitive price, because basically I had this platform where you could upload all your raw files on Astrobin, so your FITS files and your DSLR RAWs, and Astrobin would automatically categorize them and index them according to the FITS headers. But the idea was that long term, you might be able to do stuff with these files, for instance, contribute them to science, because if we had at some point hundreds of thousands of raw files in the database, and scientists might be able to, you know, query by coordinates and exact time, there might be a use for that. For instance, there's a supernova and somebody got it imaged before it was even that bright, right? So that could have some scientific value. But the cost for that is that I would have to store hundreds and hundreds of terabytes or even petabytes, which is not even, you know, something that Astrobin does at the moment. I mean, the finished images, which is mostly JPEGs and PNGs and some TIFFs, they're not that big compared to the amount of data that you acquire to create that final post-processed image. And the whole of Astrobin storage is probably less than 20 terabytes at the moment. Even though it's like 600,000 images on database. So I would love to enable that kind of thing again in the future. And if I have time, I will definitely try it again with everything that I have learned, because this raw data platform was kind of like very early on, started on Astrobin. And with everything that I have learned, I might be able to do it better. And for me, this would be one of the things that would be not core to Astrobin. So I would figure out so that the price for that is just the storage price for me. So I wouldn't have to mark it up excessively in order to encourage people, you know, to use that and to contribute their images to data, their data to, you know, possibly to science. And the second part of your question was about community outreach. And again, this goes to the same thing as before. I mean, I'm an engineer at heart. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a community ambassador or anything like that. I would have to hire somebody to do that. So the question for me becomes, do I have enough money next year to hire an additional person into Astrobin? And what do I want that person to be? What kind of role will maximize, will have a maximum impact on the benefit that the community of Astrobin, the astrophotographers, will have. Because for me, that's, you guys are my stakeholders, my bosses, and the ones that I want to please. So that's the goal, right? So what is the role that will maximize that? Community outreach, or another engineer to do more awesome features, or a UX designer so that Astrobin works even better? These are questions that need to be answered, but I don't like to put the cart before the oxes. So maybe next year, hopefully, or whenever there's enough money to hire somebody. As long as it's just me, I focus on the engineering, because I believe that that has the most impact, and also because that's just, quite frankly, that's what I like to do.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have to switch around the audio a bit. So thank you for the moment very much. This was really interesting. I think also really interesting questions. Of course, Peter is definitely behind the science part of it, but you're absolutely right with the raw files. It would be super cool to have something like this, but of course it's not it's such a niche market, or not a market, that's not at all, but a niche product. Then maybe a too big effort for the outcome. But anyway, a really nice idea. And yeah, also I want to step back one point to the equipment database, because you explained it very well, and I'm really looking forward to it, because you started with, we are equipment nerds, and yes, we are, and so we are, at least I'm really looking forward to have these clear filter possibilities for the equipment that will make a huge improvement, I think. To have it clearly described what the item is, to have it linked to maybe a shop or to a forum page or a discussion page, whatever. That sounds really cool.
About this, and especially because I have worked on this since July, almost my entire time that I work. There haven't been any major features you will have noticed until July. Since July, I have pushed out a lot of features. I mean, if you are subscribed to the newsletter, every month at the end of the month, I write a message that lists everything new that is on Astrobin. So all the new features, if there's like bug fixes and stuff like that. So Astrobin is pretty robust at this point after 10 years. So there's no major bugs. There are missing features, obviously, and some missing features might be perceived as bugs. But I publish everything that's new every month. So that's useful to follow.
Oh, okay. Let me just, I have to, sorry, I have to always check the chat if there's something happens. And Kathleen Moore asks, where is the data stored in terms of location? Is it centralized EU or cached in different locations for fault tolerance?
Astrobin, there's two aspects to data. One is the database that includes all the user information, image metadata, and this kind of like the database that used to make the app work, in the first place. So the database is on Amazon Web Services. It's in the North Virginia data center. So it's US East 1 on AWS, if anybody's familiar. It is replicated, but not for geography, just for performance. There's one write instance, and then there is 3 read replicas for performance. The database is backed up every 12 hours, and the backup is saved as a snapshot in Amazon Web Services, and it's also then copied as a backup on Amazon Glacier, which is a backup like a different data storage service within the Amazon Web Services offerings. The other piece of data that is stored by Astrobin is the images and the files and all these kind of pieces of data that's stored on Amazon S3. So that's, again, the storage by AWS, which is basically the platform that Astrobin uses for everything. Again, it's in the US East region of North Virginia. That kind of data is also backed up on a separate separate instance within the same region of North Virginia, and in a Glacier database as well. So there's 3 copies of all the images. In addition to the copies, the buckets, which is the technical name that Amazon uses for these containers of data, the buckets have versioning enabled. So that means that, you know, even if something were to be deleted because of a bug in the Astrobin software, they could always be restored. So there's several layers of redundancy for data protection. And the final piece of data that is on Astrobin is the search engine data, but that's not relevant because that's not real data. It's just data that is generated from the actual data that's in the database. So it's what's the word? Ephemeral. Sorry, I can't pronounce that word. Ephemeral, I guess. Somebody can correct me.
It basically, it gets wiped. That's what you're trying to say. If it doesn't live on forever on servers, right?
Yeah. It's not like real data source, but it's just a way to organize data so that the search engine can take it. So anyway, in short, the data is in the US, in North Virginia. There is a global distribution network that's based on the Amazon CloudFront service, and that's geographically distributed. So these images, they are duplicated across geographical regions for performance. So think about Oceania and Europe, and, you know, throughout the globe. It's quite a complex architecture. I mean, we were talking about Instagram earlier, and Astrobin is not Instagram for many reasons, but the architecture is quite complex, and there's lots and lots of moving parts. And I have to confess, because I do everything, which means software development, system administration, security upgrades, business administration, user support, and all of these things. And there's just a lot of things to do on a daily basis to keep the show running.
So Salvatore, to make it simpler for our viewers, you have a main server that holds the base app, which is basically all of the assets that the website's built on. And then you have a content delivery network that serves the images around the world. So if Peter is in South Africa, he'll get the same image from a local server than I am in the US, correct? To put
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, for performance, yes. Transitory, yes. Thank you, Morecat.
Okay, I think it was a very detailed answer. Thank you very much. That's good to know how this is done in terms of all the databases and data storage options that you have there. Great.
For those people who don't care about these technical details, what we can take home is that the data is backed up multiple times, and there's multiple layers of redundancy. So the data is pretty safe.
Okay, yes, that's definitely the most important part. Yes, that's right. Oh. Okay, so for the moment, there are no other questions. Thank you for now. Guys, if any one of you get another question in mind, feel free to put them in, no problem. As promised, I will now show you some of the guest pictures. I call it guest pictures. We are always encouraging viewers to send their images to this email address that is shown here, fullmoonlive.ts @gmail.com. One of them just an hour ago or so reached me, and unfortunately it's very small. Just a moment. And I got a mail to it. Oh well, that's really small. Let me just find the mail. This is from Richard Fay, and this is obviously the Elephant Trunk Nebula. I zoom in here. Yeah, that's the limit. It's taken with a TS photon. Whoa! Oh, guys, yes. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, that's not the best idea. Well, that's difficult because it's not working this way, guys. I hope you can live with it. You can't see it right now. This is only shown on YouTube. Yeah, that's right. The equipment used is a TS Photon Newtonian telescope, 8-inch f5, TS comma corrector 0.9, and it's pretty decent, nice image. A Canon 60DA without filters, EQ6 mount, guide scope, ASI mini guide camera, and 1 hour integration time. That's basically nothing. 180 subs. So, Richard, feel free to send me this in a higher resolution. That would be cool. Really nice image. We can also feature that if we haven't done already. Okay, the next thing I want to show you. 3 images from Alexander Grasel from Austria. Thank you very much for these images. Super cool things. Guys, yeah, you have to, Ioan, Jan, Peter, you have to rewatch the stream. I'm sorry for that. You're having here the sun and a beautiful processed version. Unfortunately, Alexander missed to write some details, how it was captured with what kind of scope, so I don't want to interpret something by myself. Maybe you can put this information to us somehow later on. But anyway, a beautiful image. And there's another one, a bit more detailed. Fantastic protuberance here. And the last one from Alexander is this one here. It's, yeah, the Hohe Wand. I think that's also in Austria. A fantastic landscape, skyscape photo here with clouds in this valley. Looks really fantastic. So that's really cool. If you have something that we should share here in this show, feel free to drop us emails with the images. We try to integrate them. Okay. So, and before we finish our session, there are some things to do. First, I want to give the word quickly to our ambassadors. If you have something that you want to share, we have, I think, 12 or 15 minutes left. So if you have something to share, feel free to share your screen. screen, I'm sorry. And then we can look at some photos from you, and then we do the giveaway, the raffle. Whoa!
He's watching, but can I start sharing? Can I show some images? Because I've been MIA in the previous.
Sure, you're welcome.
You have to enable sharing. It says disabled. Sorry. Or I can just quickly send you the images, Torsten. Oh, it's working. Thank you. So, you guys can see my screen, right?
Right.
Perfect. So I have a few images. I've been changing equipment quite aggressively. So now I'm up to 2 telescopes. Both of them are Officina Stellare. So let me start with this. This is the Pac-Man Nebula I did a couple of months ago, and it's about 20 hours of data. It's taken with a Officina Stellare corrected Brichy-Chrétien that I have to thank Telescope Express again for giving me such a great scope. I think it's one of the best scopes I've ever seen, and I keep finding new ways to make it better. This is about, again, 20 hours of data, specifically a lot more on HA because it's using that as a luminance layer. Then I think is one of the images that I've been working on a long time, which I love the Melot 15 Nebula. I love this quite a lot. It's one of my favorite objects. I've shot it before with the GSO scope, but I wanted to really capture it in more detail. I've seen a lot of people on Astrobin capture it in different modes. So what I did is I did a 2-panel mosaic. This is the first panel of the image, and it resulted in this image. And I will try to make this as big as I can. It is an incredibly beautiful object, and I found a planetary nebula that I didn't know what it's called, what it is. Then I've heard it's called Weibo 1, which is this blue element on the left. This is about 60 hours of images on both panels using the Officina Stellare corrected RC. Again, this is one of my favorite objects, and I cannot image this enough. I was actually thinking of doing given the fish head, which is somewhere underneath. After that, this is one of my new telescopes. It's a Officina Stellare Riccardi Hondas. On paper, it's one of the best telescopes you can ever buy. In reality, it's a lot more complex. It's a lot more nuanced, and it is an incredible telescope. This is the California Nebula in about, I think it's about 12 hours worth of images. And the beauty about this image is taken with Bader CMOS filters, which to me are very, very close to Chroma and Astrodon. So, you know, it's hats down to Bader for creating such an amazing filter set at such an affordable price. I also did the Sol Nebula with the same filters, same telescope. This is a lot more data. It is about, I want to say 20 hours. So again, Bader filters really impressed. The halos on the oxygen channel is not there. So I'm really impressed with the filters, and I couldn't be happier at the price point they sell them. And I think the last image I was going to show is actually a work in progress. So this is a very dim object, Able 85, or the Pop Garlic Nebula. I think I have 20 hours in this, and I'm still struggling to see enough detail for me to publish this image. This is taken with the Officina Stellare Brichy-Chrétien telescope. Yeah, that's it for me, guys. That's a cloud image I'm recently working on, and yeah, I'm interested to see what you all did.
Well, if I may follow up with the same image as Ioan just showed you, the Abel 85, if I can share. This one's mine. Can you guys see it?
Yes, we see it.
It's Ioan, you're gonna hate it because it's so hard to process it, and I'm not really happy with this image, and it's been like 30 hours already, and it's just the details. It's really sunken in a sea of stars, so the details are quite hard to see. And even with some really strong star reduction, you either ruin the stars or you ruin the nebula. So it's really difficult and challenging object. So I'm looking forward to seeing your result.
We should combine data, Jan, and
Yeah.
then we get a beautiful image. I'm sure Salvatore is going to give us image of the day with some data.
Well, I don't make the selection personally, so I don't know.
But I've been to Iceland last month, so I managed to see some northern lights. So I thought I would show you the short time lapse. Is that visible?
Beautiful, yes.
This is just 1 second images each 3 seconds, I believe. So it's quite quick, and it was taken on ISO, I believe, 8,000 or 10,000. So it was really dim, and we had a lot of clear nights, but the sun was just not that active. So we just didn't see anything huge. But probably just the last image I'll show you, I'm working on a mosaic of Taurus, and you can see California Nebula, Pleiades, and I'm trying to work my way lower, because I saw that there's a huge dim HA region, and this is just a preview, so you can see still that it's just stacked mosaic. But I have like each night is around 8 to 10 hours long now. So I think it's about 6 panels. I don't have the rest of the panels integrated, and it's gonna be my whole winter project. So once it's out, I hope it's gonna be pretty.
It is already stunning. So congratulations on having the patience to mosaic. I know a lot of us want to finish an object every 2 nights or more often, because that's how kind of we're so impatient, but this is stunning, Jan. And I think the Pleiades and the California on their own will also be a very beautiful image.
I really love the dust nebulae, so that's the reason why I'm doing it, and also the HA region below it.
Really cool.
We just had too many cloudy nights now, so.
Really cool images from both of you. Fantastic job, honestly.
So I've got a few images as well, I think, this time.
Peter's about to blow us out of the water with the targets that will never get the image, Jan. So we have no shot.
Yeah, so let's start with the Tarantula Nebula. So this was taken with the EDPH.
You're not sharing, Peter. You're not sharing.
Am I not sharing? Okay, here we go. So this was, yeah, so this is the Tarantula Nebula. It was taken with the 94 EDPH, which was sent to me by TS a number of months ago. And it was pretty much my first use of the ASI 2600 MC Pro. So this is APS-C size sensor. And I used the Optolong Allen Extreme filter with this combination, and I think it was about 10 hours of data. So a longer term project which I started just a few weeks ago. So this is the entire sort of region, large Magellanic Cloud region, of which the Tarantula Nebula, of course, is part of. This was taken with the new beta 3.5 nanometer narrowband filters. And this is the HA contribution. I haven't got round to O3 or S2 yet. And it was taken with the Samyang 135 millimeter lens and the ASI 2600 mm Pro camera at f2.8. So I'm pretty excited about this this project. I really want to invest a lot of time in it. I think there's huge potential. There's a lot of detail in this image. I mean, it's really just quite incredible just zooming in. You can, you know, if you think about the previous image, which was the Tarantula Nebula, was the frame that I shot with the 94 EDPH, and even zooming in on this image picks up a lot of very fine detail, which is also seen in the image taken with a larger telescope. And then also finished just a few nights ago. So this took about 10 weeks to complete. This is NGC 1097 and a beautiful barred spiral galaxy taken with the Edge HD 800 with the 0.7 reducer. And I gathered about 10 hours of luminance, about 8 hours of RGB data, and then about 6 hours of HA data. But it took an awfully long time because we had lousy weather over the last 2.5 months. So I sort of slowly cobbled together the image over that period of time. So it was about 10 nights over that period. And then I think lastly, so this is the Prawn Nebula, so a classic SHO image. This was taken with the Rasa 8-inch and about 15 hours of data, 5 hours per channel. So that's me.
Stunning images, Peter. I think your Tarantula Nebula should be on the website when they sell that telescope. I think you'll sell telescopes like hot butter. The quality is stunning, and as always, amazing images.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree. Really fantastic images. I can't get my head clear off that Pac-Man Nebula from you, Ioan, your first image. It was really great. I also want to, let me try to share the screen. Let's see how this works. Can you see my screen?
Windows screen, if that's what you're showing us.
Yeah, that's okay. Just a moment. So I have the opportunity, or had the opportunity, to have a hypergraph, a 6-inch hypergraph from TS here, because I'm doing a video for it, and I played around a bit with this telescope. So it's 420 millimeter focal length, and f2.8, super fast Newtonian style telescope. So I just randomly put it into Auriga and captured some of the nebulas. That was some of the first light. That's an 8 subframes, 5 minutes each, with the ASI 2400. So just a snapshot, to be honest. And I have also done let me move this around. The California Nebula, this is taken with 16 subframes, 4 minutes each. So, yeah. And I really like this. nice spikes, nice stars. It is not perfectly collimated, even when I used a real exclusive collimator. I wasn't able to finish the collimation. The main reason why I have it here is to do the video, so I stopped it at some point. So the corners are not perfect, but yeah, honestly, that's okay. That's a full frame, I think. Yes, exactly. That's the full frame camera.
At that size of the frame and at that limitation, because the hypergraph probably is not made to image over 44 millimeters. I think you did a great job. I think no tooling is going to help you fix the tilt issues in the ZWO sensor. So I think your collimation is really good, Torsten. I think that I had the same problem with Newtonians. It's the biggest issue.
Yes, you're right. That's right. Let me just grab another folder. Let's see what I also done. Oh yeah, there's something that I want to show you. Okay, it's not working. Just a moment. This is. Let me start it from the beginning. So I spent a morning out. Not really, because the telescope is doing all the work. This was this close pass-by from A1 Leonard on M3, the great cluster in Botas. These are 300 sub-exposures, 30 seconds each, combined as a video. So, yeah. And this is... sorry?
I'm just saying that it's just awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm a little envious because I was hoping to image this comet too, and we just have only clouds all the time. Since the comet is up and bright, we have just cloudy nights. So I'm just watching all the pictures, images, videos, and I'm just saying, yeah, well, at least someone's got it.
I know exactly what you mean, because this was the only night, the only, let's say, 4 hours of clear skies for weeks now, and it was just on point, just at the time. This was luck. So this one here is, yeah, you all know it. That's pretty easy, but I always wanted to capture M42 with the big telescope, with the 12-inch RC and the full frame camera. That fits perfectly in the frame, and this is some sort of dynamic range compression here, HDR, 11 by 11 times 4 minutes, and some 30-second exposures, because I wanted to have the trapezium here shown. And yeah, it's not complete to the not processed to the end. I think I can push some more color in it, but yeah.
Are you using any filter on top of your sensor, or is it just
well, this is always taken with an L Pro, ZW L Pro filter. I use this for some sort of luminance. You know, there are different opinions on using the L Pro for luminance, but yeah, I have it just on the scope. I have my flats with them, with this filter, and it's working.
Amazing work, given the object and the optics you're using. I think this is really good. The fact that you see this using that well. This is really good.
By the way, I collimated the RC with the holographic collimator. Fantastic. Turned out really.
You like it.
Yeah.
We're talking about a Howie-Glatter collimation device with the holographic circles for primary mirrors. It blows my mind how accurate that device can be when it comes to these things.
Yes, right. Okay, so that's all from me for the moment. Let me just re-enable my video. I think that's okay. Yeah, so by the way, I'm in a new little studio here, and this is why we still have some technical issues. I hope I can solve them until our next meeting. Really looking forward to that. And last but not least, there's a thing that we have to do. I just have randomly to catch comments. Guys, maybe you can fill a minute by talking. Don't know. Have you something to say?
Yeah, we can talk. I think that's not a problem on a Zoom call or a live stream. Salvatore, again, grazie mille for showing us everything. I think that we don't get to understand what goes on with a website. We don't understand the backstory. We don't understand the person. But it was a pleasure talking to you and understanding your vision, your roadmap. And I'm honored to be a member on your website. So thank you for doing that. And I'm sure we'll be more transparent in the future, and all the questions that people have in their minds will be answered as they use the platform.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It was super fun to be here. And for me, transparency is really a core value. I mean, everything that happens on Astrobin is pretty transparent, starting from the fact that Astrobin is open source. So anybody could go and look at the source code and do whatever they want with it, as long as it's compatible with the license. And most activities on Astrobin are pretty much in the open. For instance, the whole image of the day process, it's very well documented. If you go to welcome.astrobin.com/IOTD, you will learn how the whole process works. And pretty much all the work that I do, if you go to Twitter and then you follow Astrobin Tech, you basically get tweets from the GitHub account that tweet every time new code is pushed on Astrobin. So you can also keep tabs on me, you know, how much I'm working, at what hours I'm working, and so on. So I try to be as open as possible. I welcome questions. I welcome all kind of interaction. So it's really cool. And thank you very much for the questions today.
I had one more question for you. And this is more related about the features that Peter brought up. Would you consider having almost like crowdfunding for more engineering support from the platform, i.e., I don't know, a Patreon account or something where we can contribute to the future of Astrobin, so you don't have to go to VCs, you don't have to go to sharks. We can help you get the resources you need to push features that maybe would help the community more.
I have thought about it, but then I didn't do it because I thought usually on crowdfunding things like Kickstarter and these things, what happens is that the goal of these platforms is to kickstart something, right? And that means that what they do is that, okay, if you are an early adopter, an early buyer, right, we promise you this in return. So they get something at a special price, they get something like that. So yeah, I could go like, let's do a year of funding on Astrobin where everybody, you buy it for the next 3 years. And then that 1 year I get 3 times as much money. But then the next 2 years, I don't get any money, right? Because people have already received something from that. So I'm not sure how I would do something like that, but that's also because I focus on the engineering instead of figuring out how to make more money. But obviously that would be good for, you know, for the whole community if Astrobin were able to grow and that way implement more features and you know, do all the cool things that I want to do and that every game. But yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Also from me, just a moment that it's not totally silent here. Also from me, thank you very much. It was a super cool session. I really loved it to hear some of the insights and details and also the upcoming things. That's good to know, and I'm pretty sure we are all stick with you and yeah, have an eye on the website. In the meantime, I did a raffle and selected the 2 winners of the vouchers. Congratulations also from me. Yeah, please send me an email to the mentioned email address with your contact details that we can send you the voucher. Okay, for now, we are at the end of this session. The next one will be held in February, I think, with a new guest speaker also, and with some new cool images from the let's say winter session. Also really looking forward to that. But until then, I wish you all a very nice Christmas. Have a good time with your family and friends, and also, have a happy new year already. So thank you all for watching and joining today's show. See you later. Bye bye.